Marcus Thorne adjusted his formal diplomatic attire for the fifth time as the massive Zaththeia transport ship approached the homeworld. Through the viewport, the planet Zaththeia loomed like a jewel of deep purples and shimmering blues, its 3 moons forming a perfect triangle in the planet's orbit. From this distance, it was beautiful. Up close, Marcus knew it was the heart of the most formidable empire humanity had ever encountered. Nervous, Ambassador Thorne? Captain Eliza Frost spoke from behind him, her weathered face reflecting in the viewport glass. As head of his security detail, she'd been skeptical of this mission from the start. Wouldn't you be? Marcus replied with a small smile. The fate of Earth rests on negotiations with beings who consider us barely more evolved than primates. The Zaththeia Dominion had discovered Earth only 3 years prior, and humanity had quickly learned its place in the galactic hierarchy, somewhere near the bottom. The Dominion ruled over 500 worlds with technology humanity could barely comprehend, and power that seemed almost magical. At its center was Queen Azrael, said to command the minds of billions with her psychic powers. Marcus absently rubbed the strange birthmark on his palm, a swirling pattern that had occasionally pulsed with warmth since they'd entered Zaththeia space. The medical scans had revealed nothing unusual, so he dismissed it as stress-induced. Ambassador Thorne, a melodic voice, interrupted his thoughts. We will be docking in 20 minutes. The royal attendants request you prepare for arrival. The voice belonged to Zaththeia, a Zaththeia scientist assigned to the human delegation. Unlike most of her kind, she seemed genuinely interested in humans beyond their value as curiosities or laborers. Zaththeia stood nearly 7 feet tall with luminescent violet skin that seemed to shimmer with subtle patterns when she moved. Her eyes, 4 of them, arranged in a diamond pattern, regarded Marcus with what he interpreted as concern. Thank you, Zaththeia. I'm as prepared as I'll ever be. He straightened his shoulders, feeling the weight of responsibility. May I speak freely? Zaththeia asked, her voice lowered. Marcus nodded. The court nobles, they do not believe this meeting deserves the Queen's attention. They see humans as insignificant. I tell you this not to discourage you, but so you understand the challenge ahead. I appreciate your candor, Marcus replied. I'm well aware of my species standing in the eyes of the Dominion. Zaththeia hesitated, then added, there is something about you that seems different from the other humans I've observed. A resonance I cannot explain. Before Marcus could ask what she meant, a chime indicated they were approaching the royal docking bay. Through the viewport, the enormous palace came into view, a structure of impossible architecture, crystal spires stretching miles into the atmosphere, connected by bridges that seemed to defy gravity. As they disembarked, Marcus and his small delegation were immediately surrounded by Zaththeia guards, their crystalline armor pulsing with energy. The lead guard, a towering figure with ceremonial facial markings, addressed them without bothering to look directly at Marcus. The human representatives will be escorted to the waiting chambers. The Queen's Council will determine if your matters warrant Her Radiance's attention. Captain Frost bristled. The terms of our arrival were clear. Ambassador Thorne is to have direct audience with your queen. The guard finally looked down at them, his 4 eyes narrowing. Plans change, human. Be grateful you're allowed within the palace walls at all. As they were led through massive hallways adorned with technology and art beyond human understanding, Marcus observed the Zaththeia nobles watching from balconies. Their expressions ranged from amusement to disgust, like aristocrats observing animals at a zoo. They're establishing dominance, Marcus whispered to Frost. Making us wait is a power play. In the waiting chamber, a room that would have been considered a grand hall on Earth, Marcus reviewed his notes one final time. The terms the Zaththeia had proposed for humanity were little better than colonization, resource extraction rights, limited human autonomy, and mandatory cultural integration programs. His job was to negotiate something resembling actual independence. Hours passed. Marcus's mark throbbed occasionally, especially when he studied the strange symbols etched into the chamber floor. Finally, Zaththeia returned, her expression unreadable. Ambassador Thorne, the Queen will see you now. Marcus stood, surprised. Just me? Not my delegation? Just you. It is unusual. The Queen rarely grants private audience to anyone, let alone. She didn't finish the sentence. Let alone a primitive human, Marcus completed with a wry smile. As they walked through increasingly grand hallways, Marcus noticed the nobles' expressions changing from disdain to curiosity. Something was happening that he didn't understand. Zaththeia, what's going on? The Zaththeia scientist hesitated. There are rumors. The Queen's seers have been restless. Something about ancient cycles returning. She lowered her voice further. Marcus, whatever happens in the throne room, remember that not all Zaththeia view humans as the court does. Some of us remember older histories. Before he could ask what she meant, they arrived at massive doors engraved with cosmic scenes that seemed to move subtly when viewed from different angles. The guards positioned themselves on either side. "The human diplomat," announced one guard, his voice echoing. The doors opened to reveal a chamber of breathtaking scale, a space that seemed to contain its own atmosphere, with stars visible in a ceiling so high it disappeared into darkness. Hundreds of Zaththeia nobles lined the pathways, all turning to stare at the human. And at the far end, seated upon a throne that appeared carved from a single crystal of impossible size, was Queen Azrael of the Zaththeia Dominion. Even from this distance, Marcus could feel her presence, a pressure against his mind, a weight of centuries of power. "Approach, human," came a voice directly in his mind, bypassing his ears entirely. Marcus took a deep breath and stepped forward, unaware that the simple action would change everything. As his foot touched the obsidian floor, neither he nor the sneering nobles were prepared for what would happen next. Marcus walked forward with measured steps, acutely aware of hundreds of alien eyes tracking his movement. The grand chamber stretched before him like an indoor cosmos, the obsidian floor so polished it reflected the artificial constellations that swirled overhead. Noble Zaththeia lined his path, their luminescent skin displaying patterns of disdain and amusement. "Look at how it walks," whispered one courtier, not bothering to lower her voice. "So unbalanced on just two limbs." "I heard they barely live a century," replied another. "Hardly worth the queen's attention." Marcus maintained his diplomatic poise, his gaze fixed on the distant throne where Queen Azrael sat watching him with ancient eyes. Though he'd seen images, they hadn't captured her radiance. Her skin gleamed like polished amethyst, and the psychic crown hovering above her head pulsed with energy that seemed to bend light itself. 3 more steps. The mark on his palm burned suddenly, sending shooting pain up his arm. Marcus nearly stumbled, but caught himself. Something felt wrong, or perhaps terrifyingly right. 2 more steps. The floor beneath him seemed to hum, vibrations traveling up through his shoes. Several nobles nearest to him frowned, sensing the disturbance. 1 final step. The moment Marcus's foot touched the center of the chamber, everything changed. Ancient runes, geometric patterns interwoven with spiral symbols, ignited beneath him, spreading outward in concentric circles of brilliant azure light. They had been invisible, dormant within the obsidian floor, but now they awakened, bathing the entire chamber in their ethereal glow. The court went deathly silent. Marcus stood frozen, the light pulsing in perfect synchronicity with his heartbeat. The mark on his palm now burned white-hot, visible through his hand, its pattern matching exactly one of the symbols illuminated beneath his feet. At her throne, Queen Azrael rose slowly to her full height, over 8 feet tall, her 4 eyes widening in what could only be described as shock. The psychic crown above her head fluctuated wildly, and for the first time in centuries, the queen of the Zaththeia Dominion appeared truly shaken. "No." Her voice echoed both audibly and psychically throughout the chamber. "It can't be him." The royal guards immediately raised their weapons, crystalline blades humming with energy, but the queen raised her hand, stopping them. "Don't approach him," she commanded, her voice regaining its strength. Marcus found his voice despite his confusion. "Your Majesty, I don't understand what's happening." One elderly Zaththeia noble collapsed to his knees, pointing a trembling finger. "The awakening runes. They haven't responded in 10 millennia." Whispers erupted throughout the chamber. "The world shatterer. It was only legend. How could it return in this primitive form?" The prophecy spoke truth. Queen Azrael descended from her throne platform with deliberate steps, her gaze never leaving Marcus. The crowd parted before her, nobles bowing deeply as she passed. "What is your name, human?" she asked, stopping at the edge of the glowing runes. "Marcus Thorn, ambassador from Earth," he replied, struggling to maintain composure as the mark on his palm continued to burn. "No," she said, her voice softer now. "That is merely your current vessel. But I know what sleeps within you. I faced you once, when the stars were younger." From the edge of the chamber, Talia watched with wide eyes, clutching an ancient data tablet to her chest. As a scientist specializing in historical artifacts, she recognized the significance of what was happening, though few living Zaththeia would understand it fully. The runes, she whispered to herself, fingers flying across her tablet to record the event. They only activate for one being, the World Shatterer. Captain Frost and the human delegation, still waiting outside, were suddenly surrounded by additional guards. The entire palace had gone into high alert. Inside the chamber, Queen Azrael circled Marcus, staying just outside the perimeter of the glowing runes. "Do you know what you are?" she asked, something complicated flickering across her features, fear mingled with what might have been anticipation. "I'm a diplomat from Earth," Marcus insisted, fighting against a strange sense of déjà vu that came with her proximity. "You are the only being who ever wounded me," she replied, pulling aside her ceremonial collar to reveal an iridescent scar that pulsed with the same blue light as the runes. 10,000 years ago, when your power was fully awakened. As if responding to her words, images flashed through Marcus's mind, cosmic battles, energy that could tear planets apart, and this same queen, younger but no less powerful, locked in combat with him. The runes pulsed brighter, and Marcus felt something ancient stirring within him, power he couldn't comprehend, yet somehow recognized as his own. "Take him to the ancestral chambers," the queen commanded. "Guard him well, but harm him not." Her voice became a dangerous whisper. "The World Shatterer has returned, but this time, he doesn't yet remember who he is, and that gives us one advantage we didn't have before." The ancestral chambers were not a prison, but they might as well have been. For 3 days, Marcus had been confined to the sprawling suite of rooms deep within the palace, surrounded by artifacts so ancient they predated the Zaththeia dominion itself. Ornate windows revealed the triple moons of Zaththeia, casting prismatic light across the chamber floors, but force fields prevented any exit. "You are not a prisoner," insisted Kendra, the Zaththeia warrior assigned as his personal guard. "You are an honored guest who must be protected." Unlike most Zaththeia nobles, Kendra's skin was a deep indigo marked with silvery patterns that indicated her status as a member of the Queen's elite guard. Her posture remained rigid, her eyes constantly scanning for threats, even though they were alone. "Protected from what?" Marcus asked, studying her. "Or protected from unleashing whatever power everyone seems to think I have?" Kendra's expression remained impassive. "Both." The mark on Marcus's palm had settled into a steady glow, no longer painful, but impossible to ignore. When he closed his eyes, he could feel strange energies flowing through him, connecting him to something vast and ancient. "You know more than you're telling me," Marcus said, approaching her. To his surprise, she didn't step back as he entered her personal space. "What exactly is the World Shatterer?" Something flickered across Kendra's features, hesitation, perhaps even fear. "A legend," she finally replied. "A being of immense power who challenged the Dominion at its height, the only entity ever to injure a Zaththeia queen. It is said he could manipulate the cosmic energies that our civilization is built upon." "And you believe I'm him?" Marcus asked incredulously. "The runes don't lie," Kendra said simply. "They are recognition technology from the First Age, designed to respond only to specific energy signatures. They recognized yours." A knock at the chamber door interrupted them. Talia entered, carrying several ancient scrolls and data crystals, her scientific curiosity clearly overriding any fear she might have of Marcus. "Ambassador Thorne," she greeted, setting down her research materials. "I've been granted permission to study the phenomenon, and perhaps to help you understand it." Marcus welcomed her presence. "Please tell me you have actual answers rather than cryptic legends." Talia activated one of the crystals, which projected a three-dimensional image of what appeared to be battle scenes. A singular figure confronting Zaththeia forces, wielding energy that distorted the very fabric of space around him. "These are historical records, not myths," Talia explained. 10,000 years ago, a being with human-like appearance challenged the Dominion. The official history claims Queen Azrael defeated this World Shatterer, but my research suggests something more complex. As Marcus watched the projection, something stirred within him, recognition, but not memory. More like déjà vu, as if he'd dreamed these scenes long ago. "This can't be me," he insisted. "I'm just Marcus Thorne. I grew up in New Seattle. I have parents, a childhood." "Perhaps," Talia said carefully, "the essence of the World Shatterer has reincarnated within you, dormant until now." Kendra, who had been listening silently, suddenly spoke. "The Queen said you wounded her. She showed you the scar." "Yes, but—" "Our Queen is immortal," Kendra interrupted. "She does not scar." That mark she carries has never healed in 10 millennia. Whatever power did that to her goes beyond anything known in the Dominion. That night, as the triple moons aligned in what Thalia had called the convergence, Marcus dreamed. Not ordinary dreams, but vivid memories that didn't belong to him, or rather, didn't belong to Marcus Thorne. He saw himself wielding cosmic forces against the younger Queen Azrael. He felt the power coursing through him, the ability to manipulate the psychic energies that the Zaththeia used to control their empire. In the dream, he wasn't fighting out of hatred but necessity to stop something terrible. He woke gasping, the mark on his palm blazing with blue fire that cast shadows across the chamber walls. Kendra was instantly at his side, her hand on her weapon. "What is it?" she demanded, but there was something beyond duty in her voice now, concern. "I remembered," Marcus whispered. "Not everything, but enough." The Queen, she was harvesting entire worlds, absorbing their life energy to extend her own existence. The World Shatterer came to stop her. Kendra's face went still. "That is heresy," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Is it?" Marcus challenged. "Look at me, Kendra. You've been watching me for days. Do I seem like a destroyer? Or does something inside you recognize the truth?" Their eyes met, his two, her four, and something passed between them, an understanding that transcended species. Kendra slowly sat beside him on the edge of the bed, her defensive posture relaxing. "There are whispers," she admitted quietly. "Ancient tales passed down through the warrior caste. Stories of a time when the Queen's hunger grew insatiable. We are taught to dismiss them as lies spread by enemies of the Dominion." Marcus reached out, hesitating before lightly touching her arm. To his surprise, she didn't pull away. "The energy I feel inside me, it doesn't want to destroy. It wants to balance." Kendra's skin patterns shifted, displaying emotions Marcus was learning to read: conflict, fear, and something more personal. "You should not say such things," she whispered, but made no move to leave his side. "The Queen has ears everywhere." In the stillness that followed, something changed between them, guardian and guarded, alien and human, their boundaries blurring with unspoken recognition. Morning brought an unexpected development. The Royal Council had convened an emergency session, and rumors flew throughout the palace. Thalia rushed into the chambers, her usual scientific composure shattered. "There was an assassination attempt against the Queen," she explained breathlessly. "The plotters were captured, but during their interrogation, they revealed they were also targeting you." "Me?" Marcus asked. "Why would Zaththeia nobles want to assassinate me?" "Fear," Kendra stated flatly. "Fear of what your awakening represents." "They'll be coming for you," Thalia warned. "The Queen's protection may not be enough if the old noble houses have decided you're a threat to the established order." As if summoned by her words, the door to the chamber burst open. Three Zaththeia assassins, their skin patterns camouflaged to near invisibility, materialized within the room. Kendra moved with lightning speed, her weapon drawn, but she was outnumbered. "The World Shatterer must not rise again," hissed the lead assassin, launching toward Marcus with a crystalline blade. Time seemed to slow. The mark on Marcus's palm erupted with blue fire that engulfed his entire body. Without conscious thought, he raised his hand, and the cosmic energy within him responded, not with destruction, but with a shockwave that pinned the assassins against the walls, their weapons turning to dust. "How?" gasped one of the attackers, struggling against the invisible force. Marcus stared at his glowing hand in shock. "I don't know. But part of him, the ancient part awakening more with each passing hour, did know." And as Kendra looked at him with newfound awe, and Thalia scrambled to document the phenomenon, Marcus understood that there would be no returning to his old life. The World Shatterer was awakening, and the Zaththeia Dominion would never be the same. "The Inner Circle has convened, Your Radiance," announced the Royal Chamberlain, bowing deeply as Queen Azrael entered the ancient council chamber. 7 of her most trusted advisors waited around a table hewn from a single crystal that pulsed with psychic energy, amplifying their collective consciousness. "Speak freely," commanded the Queen, her voice resonating with power. "What do the seers report?" High Seer Vexus, his skin pattern shifting anxiously, projected his visions into the crystal. Images appeared, Marcus surrounded by blue energy, ancient runes activating across multiple worlds, and the fabric of the Dominion unraveling. "The reawakening is happening faster than anticipated," Vexus reported. "The human vessel grows stronger by the hour. Soon, he will remember everything." "Then we must act now," said General Corax, his military markings flashing aggressively. While he is still confused, still vulnerable, the Queen's expression remained unreadable. I faced the World Shatterer at the height of his power and barely survived. Even in this weakened state, direct confrontation would be unwise. Then what is your command? Asked Vexus. Queen Azrael's four eyes narrowed. I sealed his essence away millennia ago, knowing this day would come. The cycle demands completion. She rose, her psychic crown pulsing with dark energy. What the World Shatterer doesn't know is that I've spent 10,000 years preparing for his return. In his chambers, Marcus sat cross-legged on the floor, the mark on his palm glowing steadily as he focused on controlling the energy now constantly flowing through him. Kendra watched from nearby, her warrior's stance softened by something more personal than duty. You're getting better at controlling it, she observed. Marcus opened his eyes, smiling slightly. It's like remembering how to ride a bicycle, except the bicycle is cosmic power that could potentially tear apart reality. Kendra tilted her head. What is this, bicycle? The moment of levity passed quickly as Talia burst into the room, clutching her research tablet. I've discovered something, she said breathlessly. The official histories have been altered. The original texts tell a different story about the World Shatterer. She showed them ancient symbols that matched the runes from the throne room floor. According to these records, the World Shatterer wasn't trying to destroy the Dominion. He was trying to save it and countless other worlds. The Queen was using a forbidden technology to harvest the psychic energy of entire populations, extending her life at the cost of billions. Marcus felt a chill. That aligns with the memories I've been experiencing. There was a device, the soul nexus, that channeled life force from planetary populations. Kendra's skin patterns shifted to display shock. This cannot be true. Our Queen is the eternal protector. Is she? Challenged Talia. Have you never questioned why she alone has ruled for millennia? Why no other Zaelith approaches her power or longevity? Before Kendra could respond, Marcus gasped, doubling over as a new memory surfaced, vivid and overwhelming. He stood before a younger Queen Azrael, not as enemies but as lovers. Their energies intertwined, his human form and her Zaelith essence transcending physical boundaries. We could reshape the cosmos together, she whispered against his mind. But then came the betrayal. Discovering her secret harvests, the billions of lives reduced to energy for her consumption. We were lovers, Marcus whispered, looking up at Kendra with confusion in his eyes. The Queen and the World Shatterer, before he discovered what she was doing. Something flickered across Kendra's face. Was it jealousy? But there was no time to explore that emotion as alarms suddenly blared throughout the palace. Royal guards rushed in, led by General Corax himself. The human is to be brought before the Queen immediately, he commanded. What's happening? Talia demanded. Rebellion, Corax replied grimly. Outer colonies are declaring independence, claiming the return of the World Shatterer as their rallying cry. The Queen demands his presence. As they were escorted through the palace corridors, Marcus noticed changes. Ancient runes similar to those in the throne room were beginning to glow on walls and ceilings that had been dormant for millennia. His presence was awakening the very architecture of the Dominion. Kendra walked close beside him, her hand occasionally brushing his in a gesture that would have been unthinkable days earlier. Whatever happens, she whispered, remember that not all Zaelith are the same. Some of us can see truth, even when it contradicts everything we've been taught. The throne room had been cleared of all but essential personnel. Queen Azrael waited, surrounded by a psychic barrier that distorted the air around her. Leave us, she commanded her guards. Only Corax remained, his hand on his weapon. You remember more now, the Queen stated, her gaze piercing Marcus. How much? Enough, Marcus replied, feeling the power within him responding to her presence. I remember what you did, what you're still doing. Entire worlds, drained of their essence to fuel your immortality. The Queen's expression softened unexpectedly. You remember our connection as well, don't you? Marcus nodded reluctantly. We were, together. More than that, she corrected. We were going to reshape reality itself. Until your human conscience intervened. She descended from her throne, approaching him with a grace that belied her ancient power. What you never understood, she continued, was the necessity of sacrifice. The cosmic horrors that lurk beyond the Dominion's borders would consume everything if not for my eternal vigilance. I harvest worlds, yes, but I save hundreds more. There are other ways, Marcus insisted, the World Shatterer's memories providing him with alternatives. Ways that don't require genocide. The Queen's expression hardened. Always so righteous. It's what I loved about you, and why I had to stop you." Without warning, she struck, a lance of psychic energy arcing toward Marcus. But this time, he was prepared. The mark on his palm blazed, and he deflected her attack with a gesture, the energies crashing into the ceiling and shattering ancient crystal formations. "I don't want to fight you," Marcus said, the World Shatterer's power flowing through him more freely now. "I never did." "Then join me," she urged, her voice suddenly intimate. "As we were meant to be. With your power reborn and my dominion, we could achieve perfect balance." Something in her offer resonated with part of him, the ancient part that had loved her once. But Marcus Thorne, the human diplomat, recognized manipulation when he heard it. "No," he said firmly. "What you offer isn't balance, it's subjugation disguised as protection." The queen's beautiful features contorted with rage. "Then you leave me no choice." She raised her hands, and the entire palace trembled. Korax moved to attack, but found himself frozen in place by Marcus's power. "Kendra," Marcus called out, sensing her presence just outside the doors. "It's time to choose." The doors burst open, and Kendra entered, followed by Talia and dozens of Zaththeia who bore the markings of various castes, guards, scientists, artisans, all with the same expression of determined rebellion. "The truth has spread, my queen," Kendra announced, her voice strong despite her cultural conditioning toward absolute obedience. "The archives have been opened. Your harvests have been revealed." The queen's eyes widened with genuine shock. "You would betray me? After all these millennia of prosperity I've provided?" "We choose a different path," Kendra replied, moving to stand beside Marcus. "One where our civilization doesn't thrive on the suffering of others." As the confrontation reached its peak, Marcus felt the final pieces of the World Shatterer's consciousness integrating with his own, not overriding Marcus Thorne, but merging, creating something new and unprecedented. The runes throughout the palace blazed with blue fire, responding to the completion of his awakening. The queen, sensing the shift in power, made her decision. With a gesture of breathtaking violence, she unleashed the full force of her psychic abilities, not at Marcus, but at Kendra. "If I cannot have you," she hissed, "I will take what you now cherish." Time slowed as Marcus witnessed the attack heading toward Kendra. In that crystallized moment, 10,000 years of cosmic power fully awakened within him, and Marcus Thorne, human diplomat, became something more, the World Shatterer reborn, with the wisdom of both his past and present selves. He moved without thought, intercepting the queen's attack with his own body. Energy exploded around him, the collision of two ancient powers creating a psychic shockwave that rippled throughout the palace. When the light faded, Marcus stood unharmed, the mark on his palm now extending up his arm in brilliant patterns that matched the runes on the floor. The queen stared in disbelief. "How?" "Because this time," Marcus said calmly, "I understand the source of my power. Not destruction, but protection. Not shattering worlds, but healing them." Around them, more Zaththeia were entering the throne room, drawn by the psychic disturbance and the spreading rebellion. The balance of power was shifting before their eyes. "This isn't over," the queen warned, her voice containing both threat and invitation. "You and I are bound across time itself." With those words, she vanished in a burst of psychic energy, teleporting to some unknown sanctuary. As the throne room erupted into chaos, Marcus turned to find Kendra beside him, her four eyes wide with emotions her species rarely displayed so openly. "You could have destroyed her," she said softly. "Why didn't you?" Marcus looked at his glowing hand, feeling both the World Shatterer's ancient knowledge and his own human compassion. "Because ending her isn't the answer," he replied. "Transforming the Dominion is." Kendra's hand found his, fingers intertwining despite their alien differences. "And what of us? The guard and the World Shatterer?" For the first time since stepping onto the rune-covered floor days earlier, Marcus smiled without reservation. "I think we're writing a new story now." 3 days after the queen's disappearance, the Zaththeia homeworld remained in turmoil. The ancient palace, now illuminated with awakened runes throughout its vast corridors, had become the center of revolution. Noble houses split between loyalists and reformers, while the outer colonies declared various degrees of independence. In the heart of this chaos, Marcus stood before the massive quantum map that displayed the entirety of the Dominion, 500 worlds connected by psychic ley lines that all converged on a single point. "There," he said, pointing to a small moon orbiting a gas giant in a distant system. "That's where she's gone. To the Soul Nexus." Kendra studied the location, her warrior's mind already calculating strategies. The intimacy that had grown between them over the past days was evident in the way she stood close beside him, her skin patterns displaying affection visible to any Zaththeia observer. The most heavily fortified installation in the Dominion, she noted. Even with your powers and our supporters, a direct assault would be costly. Talia, who had become the de facto historian of the unfolding events, examined the ancient texts she'd recovered from the previously sealed archives. According to these records, the Soul Nexus was built 10,000 years ago, shortly after the Queen's confrontation with the original World Shatterer. It's designed to harvest and store psychic energy on an unprecedented scale. Not just store, Marcus corrected, drawing on memories that felt increasingly natural to him. The Nexus was designed to bind that energy to the Queen herself. Every life force harvested strengthens her connection to the cosmic power she wields. General Corax, who had surprised everyone by siding with the reformers, approached with a formal bow. Despite his high rank, he deferred to Marcus now, not out of fear, but genuine respect for the power he represented. Our scouts report increased activity around the Nexus. The Queen is gathering her most loyal forces. Whatever she plans, it will happen soon. Marcus nodded, the mark on his palm pulsing with steady light. What had once been confined to his hand now extended in intricate patterns up his arm and across his chest, physical manifestations of the power continuing to awaken within him. She's preparing for a final harvest, he said grimly. One that would give her enough power to crush any resistance and re-establish control. Then we must go immediately, Kendra insisted, her hand reflexively moving to her weapon. Marcus turned to her, reaching out to touch her face in a gesture that would have been unthinkable for a human to make toward a Zaththeia warrior before these events. Not we. I must face her alone. Kendra's skin flushed with patterns of protest and concern. I won't let you. The Queen and I are connected by more than history, Marcus explained gently. What began millennia ago must end between us. His expression softened. But I will return to you, Kendra. That is a promise across time itself. Their foreheads touched in the Zaththeia gesture of deepest intimacy, bridging the gap between their species in a way that symbolized the new era dawning for the Dominion. The Soul Nexus hung in space like a dark star, its crystalline structure absorbing rather than reflecting light. As Marcus's shuttle approached, he felt the weight of two sets of memories merging into coherent purpose. The diplomat who sought peace, and the ancient power who had once fought to protect the innocent from exploitation. Queen Azrael waited in the central chamber, a vast space dominated by a pillar of swirling energy that connected floor to ceiling. The harvested essence of countless beings flowed through this conduit, their whispers creating a haunting chorus that filled the chamber. You've finally come home, she said as Marcus entered, her voice both regal and intimate. Without her royal trappings and simple robes that highlighted her natural luminescence, she appeared almost vulnerable. This was never home, Marcus replied, stopping at the edge of the platform that surrounded the energy pillar. This is a prison for millions of souls. The Queen smiled sadly, still seeing only part of the picture. These souls would have been lost to the void regardless. At least here, they serve a greater purpose. Your purpose, Marcus countered. The Dominion's purpose, she corrected. My existence has maintained stability for millennia. Without me, without the energy I channel, the barriers between dimensions would weaken. The cosmic horrors I've held at bay would consume everything. For the first time, Marcus sensed genuine belief behind her words. In her mind, she truly was the necessary protector. There are other ways to maintain those barriers, he said, drawing on the knowledge of his ancient self. Ways that don't require sacrifice. Theory, she dismissed with a wave. Ideal and practical realities. And the reality is, the power I've accumulated is the only thing standing between civilization and chaos. She approached him, her movements graceful and hypnotic. Despite everything, Marcus felt the pull of their ancient connection, the love that had existed before betrayal. Join with me, she whispered, her hand reaching for his. Together, we could establish a true balance. Your compassion tempering my pragmatism. We were meant for this. For a moment, Marcus wavered. The memories of their past love were powerful, and part of him, the ancient part, still yearned for what might have been. But then he looked at the pillar of harvested souls, heard their endless suffering, and remembered Kendra's face as she chose to stand with him despite millennia of conditioning. No, he said firmly. Not like this. Never like this. The queen's expression hardened. Then you leave me no choice. The chamber trembled as she drew power from the soul nexus, her form growing more radiant with each passing second. The psychic crown that normally hovered above her head materialized in full glory, emitting terrible energy. I spared you once before, she said, her voice distorting with power. A mistake I won't repeat. She struck first, a blast of concentrated psychic energy that would have obliterated an ordinary being. But Marcus was far from ordinary now. The mark on his body blazed with blue fire as he deflected her attack, redirecting it into the chamber walls. I don't want to destroy you, Marcus said, his own power rising to match hers. I want to help you remember who you were before power corrupted you. Naive as ever, she sneered, launching another attack. Their battle shook the very foundations of the Nexus. Queen Azrael wielded the accumulated power of countless harvested souls, while Marcus channeled the cosmic energy that had made the World Shatterer legendary. Energy crackled between them, reality itself bending under the strain of their confrontation. As they fought, Marcus realized the truth: he couldn't overpower her, not while she was connected to the Soul Nexus. But perhaps he didn't need to. Dodging another attack, he stopped fighting back and instead focused his energy inward. The runes on his body glowed with increasing intensity as he established a different kind of connection, not to the Queen, but to the souls trapped within the Nexus. What are you doing? The Queen demanded, sensing the shift. Something I couldn't do before, Marcus replied. Last time, I tried to destroy the Nexus. This time, I'm setting them free. He placed his marked palm against the energy pillar. The contact created an immediate reaction, the swirling energies changing from sickly purple to vibrant blue. The whispers of trapped souls grew louder, more coherent, as Marcus offered them what they had been denied for millennia: choice. Stop, the Queen screamed, launching herself at him. But it was too late. The souls within the Nexus responded to Marcus's offer, choosing freedom over enslavement. The pillar of energy began to dissolve as countless essences fled their confinement, each departure diminishing the Queen's power. She collapsed to her knees, her radiance fading. What have you done? She whispered. Given them back their dignity, Marcus answered, approaching her cautiously. Just as I'm offering you a chance to reclaim yours. The Queen looked up at him, vulnerability replacing arrogance. For the first time in 10,000 years, she appeared truly mortal. Without the Nexus, the barriers will fail, she warned. Everything will be lost. Not everything, Marcus said gently. Not if we work together, not as ruler and subject, but as equals. He extended his hand to her, the mark still glowing but softer now. You were right about one thing: we are connected across time. But that connection was meant to bring balance, not dominance. As the last of the harvested souls dispersed from the Nexus, the Queen made her choice. With trembling fingers, she reached up and took his offered hand. The moment they touched, a new kind of energy surged between them, not combat, but harmony. The ancient wound on her chest, the scar that had never healed, finally began to close as their energies synchronized. I remember now, she whispered, tears flowing from all four eyes. I remember who I was before the power consumed me. Outside the Nexus, the Zaththeia fleet led by Kendra arrived, prepared for battle, but finding instead a transformation. As they watched, the Soul Nexus began to reconfigure itself, the dark crystal structure becoming transparent, emanating light rather than absorbing it. What's happening? General Korax demanded as their ships approached the transformed structure. Talia, monitoring the energy readings, looked up in amazement. It's becoming a barrier generator, but powered by freely given energy rather than harvested souls. Within the central chamber, Marcus and the Queen stood together, their combined power restructuring the very purpose of the ancient device. Where once it had been an instrument of exploitation, it now became a shield, a true protection for the galaxy against the cosmic horrors that lurk beyond known space. The barrier will hold, the Queen said softly, her voice stripped of its former arrogance. But maintaining it will require both of us. Marcus nodded, understanding the balance they now represented. Not through domination, but through partnership, with each other, and with all the worlds of what was once the Dominion. The chamber doors opened as Kendra rushed in, weapon ready, only to stop short at the sight before her. Marcus and the Queen standing together, transformed yet recognizable, the energy between them no longer combative but harmonious. Marcus? Kendra asked uncertainly, her four eyes taking in the scene. He turned to her with a smile that was entirely his own, a blend of the human diplomat's compassion and the world shatterer's ancient wisdom. It's over, he said, extending his free hand to her. The harvesting has ended. The queen has remembered who she was before power corrupted her. Kendra approached cautiously, her warrior's instincts still alert. And who is she now? The queen lowered her head in a gesture of humility that none living had ever witnessed from her. I am Azrael, guardian, but no longer ruler. What I took by force, I must now earn through service. In the days that followed, word spread throughout the former dominion. The queen's immortality, sustained by harvested souls, began to fade naturally. Though still powerful, she was now bound by the same cosmic laws as all living beings. The empire she had ruled for 10,000 years transformed into a commonwealth of worlds, each with its own voice. 1 month after the confrontation at the Soul Nexus, Marcus stood on a balcony of the royal palace, watching the triple moons rise over Zaththeia. The mark on his palm still glowed faintly, a permanent reminder of who and what he was, not just Marcus Thorne, not just the world shatterer, but something new that combined both. The Earth delegation arrives tomorrow, Kendra said, joining him at the railing. Her formal guard's attire had been replaced with the simpler garments of an advisor, though she moved with the same warrior's grace. They're eager to meet the human who transformed an empire. Marcus smiled. And what will they find? A bridge between worlds, she replied, her hand finding his, fingers intertwining despite their alien differences. A symbol of what's possible when ancient enemies become something more. He turned to her, studying the intricate patterns on her indigo skin that had become so dear to him. And us, the guard and the world shatterer. Kendra's skin flushed with patterns that any Zaththeia would recognize as deep affection. We are writing our own story now, as you said, one that spans galaxies and defies expectations. As they leaned toward each other, foreheads touching in the intimate Zaththeia gesture that had become their custom, the mark on Marcus's palm pulsed in rhythm with Kendra's heartbeat. Two species, once divided by empire and prejudice, now united in a bond that promised to reshape the cosmos. In her private chambers, the former Queen Azrael watched the triple moons with her own contemplation. The scar on her chest, once a painful reminder of defeat, had healed into a pattern that matched the mark on Marcus's palm. A symbol not of conflict, but of balance restored. The world shatterer returns, she whispered to the stars, not to end worlds, but to heal them. And throughout the galaxy, on hundreds of worlds once bound by fear, beings of countless species looked up at their skies and felt something new in the cosmic order, not the heavy hand of the Dominion, but the balanced touch of protection freely given, and the promise of a future where power served compassion rather than commanded it. The ancient prophecy had been fulfilled, but not as anyone had expected. For it wasn't through destruction that the world shatterer had changed everything. It was through the simple power of remembering who he truly was, and helping others remember their better selves as well.